This morning, a rare sit-down interview with the new House Speaker, Dustin Burroughs. He's doing what his predecessors could not: passing school vouchers, cultivating a relationship with Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, and the one bill he says he is most proud of. Can Texas Democrats declare any wins in the legislature? State Rep Gene Wu on that and what he thinks could bring lawmakers back for a special session. And saying so long this morning to one of our own, Bernardine Steptoe, the founding producer of Inside Texas Politics, retiring after 33 years in television.
Inside Texas Politics with Jason Whiteley starts now.
Good Sunday morning, I'm Jason Whiteley. A lot to cover this morning, but let's start with the headlines as always here. Early voting ends on Tuesday and the local elections are this coming Saturday. This is for city council races, school boards, and some big school bonds all across the state. Tuesday is the last day to early vote, then the election is Saturday, May 3rd. There is more uncertainty about the future of the Texas lottery, and the executive director just quit to top it off here. State lawmakers are looking at whether to abolish the lottery altogether right now. Ryan Mendel, the executive director, left the Lottery Commission, no reason given. The lottery itself under investigation right now for why it let courier services sell tickets over mobile phone apps. And hoping for a reset, the National Democratic Party is investing quite a bit of more money here in state parties. The DNC says this is a record investment it's making, more than $1 million a month going to state parties all across the country. The Texas Democratic Party will get almost double what it normally received. This money is for building new infrastructure ahead of the 2026 primaries. This morning, we are closing in on the final month of the 89th Texas legislative session. Republicans have racked up some pretty big wins so far this session. This morning, though, the party's MVP, House Speaker Dustin Burroughs, did what his predecessors would not. He works closely with the Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, and Burroughs finally got school vouchers passed in the House. We sat down with the Speaker in his office for a rare interview. Mr. Speaker, thanks for having us here.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
We appreciate that. We're closing in on the final month of the legislative session here. Anything that you did not expect in this new position you have?
Look, the House is meant for, surprises, which means when things happen, you just kind of go with what it is. But it's been a good session so far. I'm very happy with where things are at. I'm happy with the House's relationship with the Senate, the governor. I think we're on track to have a very good session.
Do you anticipate expanding the voucher program at all in the future? Do you think that $1 billion of the biennium will be consumed?
So look, we hope that there's a huge demand for it. I think there will be. I think that as soon as we have this program available, people sign up for it, we're going to see a huge demand for that. And if the demand is there and the children are being educated, we're going to have excitement, and I can see future legislators wanting to continue to grow it and invest in it because it's going to work.
But you're expecting a huge demand.
I think there's going to be a big demand. I really do.
Lost in the conversation about vouchers is the historic amount of money put towards public education. How big of a deal was that?
It's the biggest bill we passed this session.
Why do you think it was lost in this conversation?
I don't know. I mean, it shouldn't have been. We've held a press conference about it. It is HB2, meaning when we look at numbers, the only thing more important is the budget, which we are constitutionally obligated to pass. For the Texas House, it is the big win of the session. And I feel it has a lot of momentum even in the Texas Senate and with the governor. So it does a lot of good things, takes care of our SPED children, our special education, deals with full day pre-K funding, a lot of the things that we've been hearing about. And I think our public education community is very excited about HB2.
Did the passage of HB2, the public school funding, did that squelch concern from critics, rural Republicans who might have been concerned about vouchers, do you think?
I don't know if the two are necessarily tied together or not, but what I can say is House Bill 2, combined with a few of the other programs that we're doing in addition to that, means this session we will have been committed to spending more on public education than in the history of Texas, even after being adjusted for inflation. That is a historic win, and we're taking care of some much needed things. Teacher pay raises, special education funding, full day pre-K, things that I think are very important that we hear about and very excited about.
Let's talk about the budget for a moment here. House and Senate budgets both leave $40 billion on the table that can't be spent unless lawmakers break the spending cap. Is that a possibility at all, do you think?
I don't think we will. Look, I mean, we don't know what the economic certainty is going to be. We don't know where it's going to be. I think it's always good to leave money in the bank.
What happens to that money? Does it stay on a balance sheet? It doesn't go to the rainy day fund, does it?
Yeah, so there's a certain amount of money that's going to go to the rainy day fund, and I think there's some additional monies beyond that that I would like to hold back for next session to make sure that we're not bare cabinet when we return potentially.
Let's talk about the lottery for a moment here. The House's budget passed the chamber with zero funding for the Lottery Commission. And then you guys doubled down on it again with a second non-binding resolution. Is the Texas lottery going away?
We're going to have that conversation still. I mean, that is, in the next 30 days, there's going to be a real conversation about, are we going to keep it? And if we do, what changes need to be made so that people have confidence that it is a legitimate gaming operation?
Should the lottery be abolished? We saw the lottery director resign the other day. The lieutenant governor has plenty of questions. I know you guys do too. Should the lottery be abolished?
I'm not there yet, but we're continuing the conversations to basically get a sense of where we need to be on that.
There are a number of open seats next year, competitive races for U.S. Senate, Attorney General, Comptroller. Do you plan to make any endorsements at all?
Ask me again after session.
After session? Do you plan to run for anything else?
I do not.
Okay. Democrats helped get you elected. You end up passing these behemoths of bills that Republicans really wanted, ESAs, et cetera. At the end of the day, do you think you've redeemed yourself at all with conservative colleagues who had questions early on?
I don't think about things in those terms, right? I've been here now for over a decade. I have friends on both sides of the aisle. I think that they basically have supported me for a great many of reasons. Nobody was disillusioned that, I have a conservative bent in the way I've legislated, the way I have a worldview, but I want to make sure that even if you don't have the same worldview, that you're going to be respected on that House floor. You're going to be able to bring legislation that works and solutions that work, and that you're going to be heard and fully and meaningfully participate. So I think that's what's going to define success.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the time, sir.
Thank you.
Speaker Burroughs had a lot more to say than we could fit into this segment here. I asked him why Texas is still spending billions of dollars at the border when illegal crossings are down to a trickle. And listen to what Burroughs had to say about several fellow Republicans who've been quite critical of him in the past few weeks. And he also talked about his relationship with the Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. All this is on this week's episode of Y'all-itics. This episode ready to download right now. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts. All right, let's bring in the roundtable now to talk about what we did hear from the speaker. In studio, as always, Bud Kennedy from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. With us right now in the studio is Aya Mitra from the Texas Tribune in Austin, and Bernardine Steptoe, political producer at WFAA in Dallas. That's the first interview we have done, Bud, since Burroughs has taken the gavel. What was your reaction to what you saw?
I think my reaction is it's amazing that he's still vertical and makes sense. And after 4 months of getting hammered by everybody, I mean, he just went through a week where the Democrats killed constitutional amendments, the Republicans killed the consent agenda, the conservative Republicans. They said that conservative legislation, those bills like not letting illegal immigrants buy lottery tickets, things like that, those little piddly bills are not moving. He's gone through a lot, and he's able to stand up and say, okay, we passed vouchers, we're on our way to passing this, and we're on our way to maybe making a serious move with the lottery.
And you're there in Austin at the Capitol more than I am, but just visiting back, talking to members on the floor, Democrats and Republicans, it was clear to me that Burroughs has clear command in that chamber.
He does, and you can see by the way things are kind of operating and the way things are moving. The top priority for Governor Greg Abbott is on his way to his desk with this bill, and we're still kind of with a month to go. So I think there's a lot that is uniting the top leadership, and Burroughs has been kind of at the forefront of that. Indeed.
So, and Bernardine, I'm curious about the lottery. I don't play the lottery really, but I'm curious about this. It's been around 34 years. It brings in $2 billion a year to the state treasury. It would surprise me if they axed this thing. Do you think it's going away?
No.
You don't?
But the lottery brings in billions of dollars.
Sure.
So they need the money, but I think that they're going to satisfy Lieutenant Governor and others who are critics, because they say that there's no trust in it. I think they're going to tweak it, but it's not going away. Yeah. And then it's popular. It's popular with Texans.
Indeed so, and maybe a hard reset for that one. All right, a lot more ahead here, including this. When we come back this morning, can Texas Democrats claim any wins in the legislature this session? A question we will ask State Rep Jean Wu when Inside Texas Politics returns. Welcome back to Inside Texas Politics. Democrats appear to have been sidelined for much of this legislative session. So what will they have to show for it at the end of the session when the gavel falls? Our next guest is State Rep Jean Wu, a Democrat from Houston who leads the Democratic caucus there in the Texas House. Mr. Chairman, good to see you again. We are closing in on the final month of the legislature here. Are Democrats going to have any tangible victories to show that might end up at the governor's desk?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think people look at the legislature as just like, oh, we only pass a couple of bills here and there, but like the bulk of our work is the budget, is all these little administrative things here and there, and hundreds of bills here and there. The whole point of Democrats fighting at the beginning, fighting to make sure that we were respected, that we were given like the ability to fight for our communities, was about those things, right?
Let's talk about vouchers for a moment here. You said the other day after they passed, you said the fight's not over on vouchers. What's next then?
So look, one, the bill, even if the governor signs it, which, you know, I would encourage people to start calling the governor and saying, hey, you don't need to sign this thing. You don't have to. You should listen to us.
But he wants it more than anybody.
But he is a politician nonetheless. And politicians, ultimately, you need to listen to the people who put you in office. And the public needs to tell them, you need to listen to us and not a couple of billionaires who wrote you big checks. At the end of the day, we are your bosses, not them.
Last time you and I spoke, it was right after Democrats got Dustin Burroughs elected as Speaker. Burroughs went on to pass school vouchers. That's a huge Republican priority. Is there any regret voting for Burroughs?
Look, that's up to individual members. I think no matter what the choice was, our choice was between someone who has basically said that they would give us power, would give us the ability to defend ourselves and speak up for our legislation, versus somebody who says, no, we'll cut you off at the knees. So no matter what happens with vouchers, I think those kind of like decisions are really clear. It's like, why would we ever work with somebody or give our vote to somebody that says you have no power, no place here?
Let me ask you about THC. The House bills to ban THC is still in committee. Yeah. It's a little different from the Senate version, obviously. The House wants to allow THC in beverages. Is this going to get to the House floor, do you think?
I don't know. And I think in the current form, both bills are just bans of different kinds, sure. Right? The Senate bill is a total and complete ban, which is, I think, for the vast majority of people, is just a non-starter. I think for the House bill, essentially is a ban as well. If you're saying that you can only get it in alcoholic beverages, well, not everyone wants alcoholic beverages. That's kind of the point. You know, like, why do this? I think what the public wants is a reasonable regulatory system. Neither of these bills in the current form are any sort of reasonable regulation.
Lieutenant Governor Patrick's threatening to force a special session if this doesn't pass the House. Do you expect to be back here during the summer for a special session at all?
I certainly hope not. I think one of the places where we would come back for a special session, it would not be THC, because again,
what would it be?
You know, it has to be something that is important and vital to the people of the state of Texas. And I think what we might come back for is dealing with what is happening caused by the instability caused by the Republican tariffs.
But what would the state role in that be, do you think?
I think there will be large number of job losses, people losing their homes, and I think people will be looking for assistance. The state, I think, is going to have to come in and provide assistance. I think things are going to get really bad.
You think so?
I think so.
Is there talk about that the legislature might have to act later this year?
No, and I think that's a real problem.
Mr. Chairman, good to see you again.
Yeah.
All right, Reporters Roundtable is up next, and our final salute to Bernardine Steptoe here, the founding political producer of Inside Texas Politics, retiring after 33 years in television. Up next.
This is Inside Texas Politics with Jason Whiteley.
All right, time now for Reporters Roundtable to put the headlines in perspective. This will be a little bit different this morning, though, but joining us each week, Bud Kennedy from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, I am Mitra from the Texas Tribune, and Bernardine Steptoe, political producer at WFAA here in Dallas. This morning, though, we are saying goodbye, so long, to Bernardine Steptoe. She was the founding producer of this program almost 20 years ago when it started. Hard to believe it's been on the air that long. It has launched a lot of other similar programs all across the state. Before we chime in, before we hear from Bud and Ian, and hear from Bernardine herself, though, there were a few other former friends of the program, former participants, who wanted to send some messages to her as well. Here they are.
Hi, Brad Watson here. Almost 20 years ago, Bernardine and I had a dream. Bring local politics coverage to the Sunday morning news. We started out small with a Q&A segment and then grew it to a dedicated program called Inside Texas Politics. And now, look at what ITP has become. Arguably the best local television program in the nation covering state and local politics. Bernardine, working with you is one of the highlights of my career. Congratulations in your retirement and best wishes for whatever is coming next.
Bernardine, years ago you called me when I still had a little hair and said, come across the street, I got something I need you to help me with. And I went over to the studio and me and Brad Watson taped 10 or 15 minutes of what would be the first edition of Inside Texas Politics. So thrilled that you allowed me to be a part of your journalism journey, which in part is my journalism journey as well. You've called Inside Texas Politics your baby, and my, has your baby grown. Congratulations, you are the mother of North Texas political shows. Congratulations and good luck.
Happy day, Bernardine. You made it to the end of work. Welcome to the afterlife. People are going to tell you retirement is hard for adrenaline junkies like you and me. They'll say you won't like the unscheduled time and leisure, reading and talking with friends and family, going to bed without setting an alarm. They'll say work will call to you and haul you back into the rat race. These people mean no harm, but they're wrong. They're jealous, and they're not telling you the truth. It's great out here. You don't have to wear socks. You don't have to be nice to knuckleheads just because they're making news. It's a blast, and you deserve it. Thanks for everything you've done and everything you're going to do. And congratulations.
Nothing scripted there, Bernardine, so just first reaction to seeing all your old friends there. You started with them before I ever came along, before Bud and I joined too.
You know what? Listening to them brought back so many memories. I'm actually at a point that I'm speechless. Especially, I just talked about Ross. You know, Ross, I mentioned to Ian that when he would come into the studio, we would just go at it. And
what do you mean go at it? What would you do?
Debating. We would debate, and it's interesting because I wasn't as assertive with him when he'd get up there where you are, but when he'd come into this studio, it was like he just lit it. And then I can't even talk about Brad. You know, Brad was just, but he wasn't Jason Whiteley.
Oh, well, you and Brad started this program.
Yeah,
a
we
long
started
time ago.
it, and Gromer. But I really hated when Gromer left because he gave me ideas in terms of the guest.
And Gromer wasn't joking. He did have hair back then.
I
didn't believe that, but we went back and found some old video that we're going to show on Thursday night, and he did have hair here. Do you have a favorite guest over the years?
You know who I liked, who we could rarely get on now, is John Wiley Price. And only because prior to
He's a Dallas County Commissioner, yeah.
Dallas County Commissioner John Wiley Price, and that was because he was our holiday guest. Because he didn't celebrate Christmas, he didn't celebrate certain, so we could always depend on going and getting him and putting him on the show, and we would have a show. But he was dependent. But I liked Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick.
Yeah.
Because he would answer the questions. He was charismatic, and he was just likable.
And of course, Bud was with the program really early on too, filling in for Gromer, and then taking over this position soon after the Gromer left too.
Well, what I have said is that you've been either in my ear telling me what to do, or by my side for nearly 15 years. Every week, I'm going to miss seeing you on a regular basis, telling me not only to straighten up and make sense, but also to straighten up my hair and look good, things like that a newspaper guy needs to know. I think what's important to talk about, though, is your commitment to balance on this show and to a quality show. I think what makes this show different from all the other political shows is that I think you must start the week from conversations we had saying, okay, how can I get both sides of this issue? How can I get both parties on this show? How can I get all people, all views, all colors, all genders represented on the show. How can I have a guest who's entertaining for everybody? I think that sense of balance is what sets this show apart. And I think it's something that you decided and went in saying, we need to have a fair balance. You got people who don't even agree with you at all. You charmed them into coming on the show.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
I agree. You have been, and you are the brains behind this show. And one thing that I said that some of our viewers in politics might recognize too, I think what you do so successfully, and you really lead the way on here in the newsroom, is you take emotion out of politics.
Yeah.
A lot of people in today's environment cannot do that. And when you do that, you can successfully and clearly see exactly who's doing what and why. And the other thing I've said for a long time, I know I'm talking a long time here, but you like Columbo.
Oh, yeah.
The old Columbo
Matter
show.
of fact, I watch it at 3 o'clock in the
You
morning.
are the Columbo character in the newsroom. You're the Peter Falk in the newsroom, where people might find you unassuming, and they should never underestimate you. But if they do, it doesn't last for long, because you have things clearly figured out. You know where bodies are buried and have it all wrapped up. Just a few seconds left here.
You know what? I'm going to miss Inside Texas Politics in all of you. But I think that it's time for me to spend more time with my 11-year-old grandson. And I only have one. And I miss a lot of his activities that I want to spend more time with my family. And I hesitate saying that because usually when someone leaves a job that appears if they love, they say, what's the backstory? There is no backstory.
That's it. Bernardine, we're going to miss you. Thanks so
Okay.
much for everything. Thanks so much for watching as well. We'll see you next week.